Hello and welcome to our last topic for this set of lectures. We're talking about cardiac physiology. In this particular set of videos, we're going to be talking about stroke volume and cardiac output. Okay, so we are going to start by taking another look at the cardiac cycle. So take a look at the cardiac cycle here, and I want you to ponder this question here. When would the volume of blood in the ventricles be the highest, and when would it be the lowest? So take a moment, hit pause, think about that for a minute. Okay, so hopefully you figured out that the volume of blood is going to be highest in the ventricles here during isovolumic ventricular contraction, because that is when the ventricles have filled with blood, and it's going to be before the blood gets ejected from the ventricles. Okay. The volume of blood in the ventricles is going to be the lowest at the start of ventricular diastole. So kind of here, isovolumic ventricular relaxation. When you have ejected all the blood that you're going to eject, and you're going to start to relax, but you're not yet filling up with more blood, okay? If we plot that volume over time, it's gonna look like this, right? So taking a look at this graph right here, we have left ventricular volume on the y-axis and then time on the x-axis. Just to kind of walk you through this a little bit, starting with starting with diastole, I guess right here, we've been filling the heart with blood. When we contract our atria, the volume of blood in the ventricles is going to increase because we're pushing blood into the ventricles from the atria. Then we have a little moment here where the volume stays constant. That's isovolumic ventricular contraction. Once we start ventricular ejection, we can see that the volume goes down because we are getting rid of the blood from the ventricles. We're ejecting it from the ventricles, okay? At the end of ventricular ejection, we're going to get to isovolumic ventricular relaxation, where we hit our lowest level, okay? And then once those once that AV valve, those AV valves open up again, we're going to start to fill the ventricles again. Okay. Okay, so I do want to point out that we have names for our maximum and minimum values for the volumes in the ventricles during the cardiac cycle. Those are EDV, or end diastolic volume. So this is the end of ventricular diastole. So end diastolic, end of diastole, okay? And then we have ESV, or end systolic volume. So this is the volume at the end of ventricular systole, okay? I want to point out that ESV is non-zero. Okay, so we never, like when we eject blood out of the heart, we're not completely emptying the heart. We still have quite a bit of blood left in the ventricles after we eject, okay? I also want to introduce this term here, stroke volume, which is the amount of blood that we eject per cardiac cycle. Okay, and the amount of blood we eject per cardiac cycle can be expressed mathematically as EDV minus ESV. Okay, so I have a task for you to perform right now. What is the stroke volume here? So see if you can calculate the stroke volume. So hit pause and do that. Okay, so let's calculate the stroke volume here. So remember that stroke volume is end diastolic volume minus end systolic volume. Our end diastolic volume is 135 milliliters. So our stroke volume is going to be 135 milliliters minus the end systolic volume, which is 65 milliliters. So that gives us a value of 70 milliliters for our stroke volume.